And if we look at referendums in general, most of them fail. Out of the 44 that we've had, only 8 have gone through. And speaking to the Australian Electoral Commission today, they talk about the first hurdle and then the second hurdle being that the Northern Territory and the ACT, those numbers don't even get a look in. So it sounds confusing. It sounds, there's just so much to it. And I think a lot of people are certainly supportive of Indigenous and Torres Strait Islander people. There's not really much question there, but I think the question from many people is, what is this question going to be and what will it do?
Yeah, I think the Labor government and at both levels in Queensland where I am and at the national level, I think they're trying to prey on people's guilt. I think there's some terrific, I'm sure there's some terrific people, some of our first Australians that are pushing for, to get better outcomes and are behind this cause and that they see it as a benefit. But as you just pointed out, there's some failures in the actual political process of how this works. But at the end of the day, I feel I'm someone that's pretty well qualified economist that is in the trenches now. I'm focused on trying to get title deeds so that an Aboriginal person in Australia can own a home in their own community. That's a right they don't have right now. Both successive Liberal Labor governments, they deny them that privilege of being able to own your own house in this country, which is pure socialism, and they're denied that right. They're denied adequate hospital services. I was taking phone calls last weekend to a lady up in the Gulf country that hadn't been fed a breakfast in the hospital as of 90 years old. So the hospital conditions are just absolutely diabolical. The health conditions, the grocery prices, I pay $200 or $300 a week for my grocery bill. They'll pay up to $500 a week. And on the lowest income levels of Queensland and the Aboriginal communities I represent, they've got enormous problems right now. So we need to deliver title deeds, an opportunity, remove the barriers to get into work. We need to get housing going. We need to improve the health system. And like I said, reduce those grocery prices. They're the things, attack rheumatic heart disease. They're the things I'm interested in hearing about. This nebulous idea of the voice that's going to solve everything. I think that can only distract us for the next 5 or 10 years from focusing and gives the government an excuse to not deliver on the things and get on the ground where we're needed and where we desperately need some help to help these people advance. But, just as recent as 2 weeks ago, I put a bill into Parliament, into the Queensland Parliament, that was simply about getting access to jobs in those communities by virtue of giving the decision-making away from someone in Brisbane to someone back in those Aboriginal communities. That was what I figured is the essence of the voice. And Labor Party in Queensland said, we can't pass this because if you do that, you'll compromise the outcomes in those communities. And that was their point in the debate. So it just proves the hypocrisy. And if there's one thing I will not tolerate in this debate is the hypocrisy. I will not be told that I have to do that and have guilt about this when I'm there working for these issues now. We have a voice right now. I think there's a lot of great Aboriginal leaders, mayors up there. They're all telling me and gave me that legislation to put in Parliament. I put it there, it got voted down. So they're already telling people, look, we like having your ideas, but we don't actually accept them in Parliament. It's already been tried and failed, and I will not tolerate this hypocrisy forced on us. And I think the whole thing's been railroaded by the left woke agenda that just wants to drive this stuff into us. And I think it's unfortunate for a lot of the well-meaning advocates of Aboriginal people and First Australians that they've been hijacked through this to say that this is the panacea of all your problems. And I think that's pretty cruel in a way. And to top it all off, it's divisive. I think we're all one nation and we need to move ahead together. So, as someone that's deeply embedded up there, I'm not going to say I speak for everyone in the Gulf and those Aboriginal communities I represent, but I certainly do care for them like most Australians, and we do want to change those outcomes. I think most Australians are really heavily invested in that, but it's about getting right to what those issues are and making those practical outcomes, not some nebulous idea that's going to solve everything. I think we need to focus on those practical things, and that's what I try and focus on with the KAP party that I represent, and that's where we'll remain focused. And this stuff is just a sideshow for the politicians and the elites and the academics from the capitals that want to feel like they're doing something.
And Robbie, it's estimated that this referendum is going to cost $400 million. We have to wrap it up unfortunately. But just quickly, what do you think will be the ramifications if the voice is a no from Australia?
Well, if the no, I think it'll be exactly the same as if it was a yes. I'll still be fighting for title deeds in those communities so that people can get a bank loan for a business or to buy cattle. I'll still be fighting for against rheumatic heart disease, lower grocery prices, and proper health outcomes in those regions. I'll still be fighting for exactly the same thing. So are the same people in those communities I talk to every day, and you know, everyone. It'll be the people in Brisbane, Sydney, Canberra, and Melbourne that all get to feel good or bad about themselves. It's pretty irrelevant to what we do up there. We'll keep fighting the fight, and you know, at the end of the day, it won't be that relevant to us.